Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Kentucky Downs here on Saturday. It is the 7th of September 2024. Gonna look at the stakes races here on Kentucky Turf Cup Day. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean it around the world. Join me today for some great action from Virginia, also with the Virginia Derby, and also in the UK with the Haydock Sprint Cup. So it's an excellent day of racing, and tomorrow with good racing from Longchamp. Next 2 weekends they have basically ARC day trials, so can't wait for that. But we're going to look at the big action here from Kentucky Downs races 6 through 11, so quite a few races to look at. Let's get to it right now. The sixth race, it is the it's the Kentucky's Ladies Marathon. It's a grade 3 event going for $2 million purse, races for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 9 horses going 2,100 meters or mile 5/16 on the turf course. Gonna take here the 6-horse Vergara as a top selection, 6-4-1-2 in the superfecta, 6-4-1-2 super, top selection 6-horse Vergara. This 5-year-old mare by Noble Mission, Grab Motion trains, Tire Like Affleone gets to mount. The horse's most recent appearance came in the Robert Dick Memorial, Delaware, mile 3/8 on the 7th of July, and the horse finished third by 1 3/4 lengths that day. She just kind of stalked all around the race course. She was a little bit wide late, but she was gaining behind Chop Chop and War Like Goddess. Chop Chop's running back this one. War Like Goddess ran this past weekend at Saratoga and ran a very respectable place in the Flower Bowl. Or third, something like that, I can't remember now, but, she ran decently that day. I think this horse coming here to Kentucky Downs, or this horse absolutely adores running, 2 for 2 on this course. I think she could find a trip to win. She's also been running decently against these horses in this division this year. She ran 2 back in the Cortana Churchill, mile and a half on the 25th of May, and finished third by 5 lengths that day. And, the horse was saying, there was a pacer out in front by a lot that day. This horse just sat way behind that day, but she slowly moved her way into it. She had the lead. She got caught in the lane, but she ran her heart out that day. And then prior to that, in the Bewitch of Keelan over the mile and a half, she finished third by 6 3/4 lengths. Chop Chop ran terrifically that day, and basically, just had everything her own way from a closing trip. But this horse ran her heart out behind her. If you look at her races last fall, she won this race quite easily last season by 3/4 length at 2.5 to 1. Came back to run in the Dowager, where she didn't get a good trip, but I thought her third in the Long Island wasn't bad at all either. Coming here today, training well at Fire Hills. I'm going to give her a shot on the ticket. To recount my selection now for the 6th from Kentucky Downs, it is the Ladies Marathon. We're going to take the 6-horse Vergara. We'll go 6-4-1-2 super. We're going to go 6-4 in the multi-race. We're going to speed. We have a lot of races to look at, so we're just going to slightly speed through some of these races here. But I'll give you who I would use in my multi-race wagers also. But let's get to the 7th race now from Kentucky Downs, which is the Music City Stakes. It's a grade 2 event going for a purse $2 million. Race fillies, 3-year-olds here. We have a field of, let's see, quite a few horses. 16 entered, 12 go 1,300 meters or 6.5 on the main track or the turf course. Going to take the 4-horse Pipsy, 4-2-8-9 for me in the superfecta, 4-2-8-9 super. Top selection of 4-horse Pipsy. This 3-year-old field by Kodiak here. William Walden trains. Joel Rosario gets to mount. The horse's most recent outing came 29th of June at Churchill, a mile in the Tempin Stakes, and she finished 8th by 8 lengths that day, and she was with them early on, but then just crumbled. I think she wants to go a sprinting trip. She's back at it again today. She's coming to a race course that's very similar to a European-style course where she's handled in Europe. I think she could find a trip to win. Also, she's been training quite nicely since her last race. Her North America debut came in the Soaring Softly at Aqueduct, 6 furlongs, 12th of May, where she won by half a length that day. She got out of the gate so clearly that day. She was a couple steps slow, but she sat back early. She had a good pace to close up into, and she did just that, quickened up nicely. A very good victor for her that day. And then her final star is a 2-year-old in the Legacy Stakes at the Dundalk, 5 furlongs on the poly track, winning by 1 1/4 lengths that day on the front end. She ran a very good run. Even her race before then, a main race at the Kerr over the 6, she won by 3.5 lengths that day, and again on the front end she really ran decently. It was just the race at Aqueduct, she just missed the break first time stateside. Other than that, she's been getting out of the gate so clearly in all her races. She's a versatile type, as you could see by closing up from nowhere at Aqueduct or setting the pace like she did in Europe. Like I said, last time out routing, I just don't think she wants to route. I think she wants to cut back to 6.5, which is her ideal trip. She's drawn well here today. I'm going to use her on the ticket. The 2-horse Kyra, I think, could win also. Her last 2 races on the Naira circuit weren't bad at all. She gained a lot of ground. Another horse, her races in Europe weren't bad at all. I'll give her a shot at 6-1 on the ticket. But to recount my selection for the 7 from Kentucky Downs now, it's the Grade 2 Music City Stakes. We're going to take the 4-horse Pipsy. Give kudos to the 2-horse Kyra. 4-2-8-9 Super, 4-2 in the multi-race. The 8th event now from Kentucky Downs. It is the Mint Millions. It's a grade 3 event going for a $2 million purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here in the Mint, a field of 11 horses going 1,600 meters or a mile on the kidney-shaped course, the turf course. I'm going to go take the 8-horse here, who is Talk of the Nation, 8-6-10-1 for me in the superfecta, 8-6-10-1 super, top selection 8-horse Talk of the Nation. This 4-year-old colt by Quality Road, Tom Pletcher trains. Ira Tees Jr. gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently at Colonial, a mile and a quarter in the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and the horse finished 4th by 3 lengths that day, and he stalked down the race course. He had the lead. Nation's Pride caught him. I don't think he wanted to go in a mile and a quarter. I think he just kind of yielded. Mile 16th might be his max, but mile right in his wheelhouse today. Back to Kentucky Downs, where he ran very well last year. I think he, with the cutback and trip, his bar's up the scratch, and I think he can find a trip to win. He ran opening weekend at Belmont, at Aqueducts, one of the tracks in Naira, Saratoga. There we go. And the over the mile in the Grade 3 Kelso, where he finished 2nd by a half length. Carl Spackler ran terrifically, was next out winner. This horse just kind of stalked him that day, or set the pace in the small group of horses, and he just couldn't get there late. Carl Spackler just had to jump on him, but he didn't go down without a fight. And then the poker at Saratoga over the mile in early June, he finished 3rd by length that day. And he just wasn't getting into it. Same for the race 4 in the opening verse. Carl Spackler freaked, but this horse was just the bridesmaid, not the bride. But if you look at some of his races, 3-year-old last year, I thought he had a very good 3rd in the, a very good place in the Manila at Belmont last summer. Came back to run in the Gun Runner here locally, where he ran a massive win by a half length with a 97 Beyer. And then his race in the Byron Station, he might have went a little bit backwards with the Beyer speed figure, but he ran a very good, respectable place. He's training well at Saratoga. I think getting a decrease in trip from his last race, he could win. Strong quality here for Floron and Marcassi. His horse sets the pace, and he's always, he's a 5-year-old horse here that always runs these terrific races. He ran here a few years ago in the Tampa, where he just kind of yielded late, but when the rails are down, this turf course can play towards front-running speed. I would give him a shot on the ticket, and even the 10-horse here, Ancient Rome. He won this race last year quite nicely coming off the pace. His race in the Arlington Million wasn't bad at all, that 3rd place finish where he gained a little bit of ground. Even his races before then, the Summer Mile at Ascot, weren't bad at all. Coming here to fast ground, it would surprise me. Let's use him in the pick 4, or pick 5 that begins with this race. But to recount my selection for the 8th now from Kentucky Downs, it's the Grade 3 Mint Millions. We're going to take the 8-horse Talk of the Nation, give kudos to the 6-horse Strong Quality, and the 10-horse Ancient Rome, 8-6-10-1 super, 8-6-10 in the multi-race. The 9th race now from Kentucky Downs, it is the Franklin-Simpson Stakes. It's a Grade 1 event going for a purse $2 million, race for 3-year-olds here. The first Grade 1 in Kentucky Downs history. I thought it would have been in the Kentucky Turf Cup, but, I just, when they came out with the grading system last, it had to be December, around Christmas time, I was actually coming home from Aqueduct, or I was at Aqueduct that day. I know that especially, and it's definitely coming home from Aqueduct. I was on the, taking an Uber home, and I remember reading the article about, the Grade 1 races that they're putting on for this year, and some of the races that they downgraded. Can't believe they downgraded like the Vosper to a Grade 3, and this race is a Grade 1 now. Still head scratcher, just one of those head scratchers. But 16 horses are entered, 12 could go the distance of ground of 1,300 meters, or 6.5 furlongs on the turf course. If I'm not mistaken, also, this might be the only, turf sprint for 3-year-olds that's a Grade 1 in this country. With that being said, I'm going to go with the 11-horse Mansa Musa, 11-6-10-4 in the superfecta, 11-6-10-4 super, top selection, the 11-horse Mansa Musa. This 3-year-old colt by 10 Sovereigns, Belmont trains, Junior Alvarado gets the mount. They ran the horse in the Mahoney at the Spa, most recently over the 5.5 of the Mellon, 11th of August, and the horse finished 7 by 2 3/4 lengths that day. He was a little bit wide, but he got around the race course okay that day. I think with a faster turf course that he's going to see today, an outside poster isn't, so bad here. If he has some pace to overcome it, I think that could go a long way. He had pace to overcome the wide poster at the Spot 3 back on the 8th of June, going 5.5 in a allowance race, facing older horses, breaking working from 9 to 10. He won by a neck. He got somewhat good position, a little bit wide late, 8 wide at the quarter pole, but then he flew home clear. I thought that was a very good victory. Came back to run against 3-year-olds in the quick call where he lost to the Philly Star Mystery, where he finished second by 1.5 lengths, where he just couldn't get there late, but the winner just really freaked that day. And then to start off the season, Palisade, he had a very good second place finish where he didn't get out of the gate so clearly, but I thought he gained a lot of ground. Training well Churchill since the last race. I think this horse could win this Grade 1. I think the 6 horse here, Apollo 10, could rocket to the finish also for Christophe and Tyler Gaffalione. 2 back in the My Frenchman at Monmouth over the 5.5. The horse went by 3/4 length on the front, and he ran terrifically. Against prior to the Tom Ridge of Prescott over the 6, he had a very good second place finish where, again, he was a little bit wide, but he got around the race course okay. He has a lot of speed here. Like I said earlier, this turf course can play towards speed when the rails are down. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket. I think he could win. To recap my selection now for the 9th from Kentucky Downs, it's the Grade 1 Franklin-Simpson Stakes. Going to take the 11 horse Mansa Musa. Give kudos to the 6 horse Apollo 10. 11-6, 10-4 Super. 11-6 in the multi-race. The feature 10th race now from Kentucky Downs. It is the Kentucky Turf Cup. It's a Grade 2 event going for a purse of $2 million. Races for 3-year-olds and upwards. 11 horses are going 2,400 meters or 1.5 miles on the turf course. Years ago, going back probably 20 years ago now, maybe a little bit more also, these cars at Kentucky Downs used to be connected with the old Turfway September meeting. And, the Kentucky Turf Cup, you had the Kentucky Turf Sprint, Turf Cup Sprint, whatever they call it, the next race. And I believe the Kentucky Turf Mile would connect all the races from Turfway that day, which were the Kentucky Cup Classic, the Kentucky Cup Juvenile, there was this Kentucky Cup Sprint, and it was a very good day of racing. And it would kind of be like the old Ohio 7 and 7s, where they would share the car between Turfway and Kentucky Downs. It's a shame now Turfway doesn't have their September meeting anymore. If the Churchill Turf Course keeps the way it's going, I would bring it back next year, the Kentucky meeting from Turfway, but years ago, these races used to be very fun to look at, and they still are. But it's just a relic from the past that probably people forgot about, I think. But my top selection here, I'm going to go with the 7 horse Tawny Port. 7-2-11-6 for me in the superfecta. 7-2-11-6 super. Top selection 7 horse Tawny Port. This 5-year-old horse by Pioneer of the Nile. Christophe Clement trains. Flavien Prat gets them out. Since taking this horse to turf a couple seasons ago, this horse has really improved a lot, getting faster on the turf. His most recent race in the UN at Monmouth over the mile 3/8, he finished 3rd by a head. He had a very wide trip. He stalked. He closed up from nowhere. He just couldn't get smoking and Grand Sonata late. But this horse, he ran his heart out with that 98 buyer. Prior to the mile and 8th in the Monmouth Stakes at Monmouth, he finished 3rd by a neck. He had the lead. He got caught late by the winner. But again, he didn't go down without a fight. He showed potential, great potential that day. And then the Man of War, a very weird run race at Aqueduct over the mile 3/8. He finished 4th by 9 1/4 lengths. Silver Knot ran terrifically, was next star winner. This horse was just wide and just lackadaisical that day. But his races over the winter in South Florida weren't bad at all. Very good place to start off the season with a wide trip in the McDermott. And the Pan American, he had a very good 3rd place finish where he closed up from nowhere, just missing it by a neck. His only win on the turf came in the John's Call last summer over the mile 5 furlongs, where he won by 3.5 lengths. But after that, came back to run a very good place in the Cape Pendleton, and then his second more race, he just was a little bit flat that day. But his races this season against these quality horses haven't been bad at all. Training well, Belmont, he can win. I'll use him on the ticket. I think the 2 horse integration for Kendrick and Shug could win also. Be great for Kendrick to win a $2 million race. One of my favorite riders on the Naira circuit, if not my favorite. His most recent race in the Arlington Million, he finished 2nd by 1 3/4 lengths. Nation's Pride had the jump on him, but this horse got around the race course well that day. He just missed, but he ran his heart out. Prior to the Millions preview at Colonial on very soft ground over the mile furlong, he won by 6.5 lengths. He was much the best on paper. He only had 2 other rivals, and he proved that day. Good run. And then, I think when he hasn't had Kendrick on, he's run his subpar races. Very subpar race in the Pegasus where he just didn't show up. And in the Maker's Mark, he didn't really get a great run. I thought he ran okay in the Turf Classic where he gained a little bit of ground, but program trading really freaked that day. But, when Kendrick's been on him, he won last year's Virginia Derby on this day last year and came back to win the Hill Prince very nicely and nearly course record time at Aqueduct in late November last year. Training well at Far Hills. I think he can win. Let's use him on the ticket. And also, watch out for the O'Brien shipper. He has quite a few runners this week. weekend here. But I think the 11 horse Chief, a little rock for Frankie and Aidan O'Brien can win also. His most recent race in the King Edward, he just never really got into it late. He kind of weakened out of it. Prior to the Cur over the mile and a quarter, he ran a very good win that day. And then behind Bellium Justum in the, if you remember that name from last weekend, he ran in the Epsom Derby trial, where he had a very good third place finish that day, where he just kind of yielded late. But refreshing here, I think he wants a mile and a half. I'll give him a shot on the ticket. But to recount my selection for a very good Kentucky Turf Cup, the 10th race from Kentucky Downs, we're going to take the 7 horse 20 Port. We'll give kudos to the 2 horse Interrogation and the 11 horse Chief Little Rock. We're going to go 7-2, 11-6 Super, 7-2, 11 in the multi race. The 11th race now from Kentucky Downs, the final turf, the final stakes race in the program. It is the Ainsworth Turf Sprint. It's a grade 2 event going for a $2 million purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have an oversubscribed field of horses entered, 13 exact, so 12 could go, 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs on the turf course. I'm going to go to the 11 horse here, who is Witty. I'm going to go 11-4-3-8 in the superfecta, and this is a very wide open race, so any of these 4 can win. The 11 horse Witty, this 5-year-old gelding by Great Notion. Elizabeth Merriman trains. Tyler Gaffalione gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently in the Van Cleef at Colonial over the 5.5 on the 11th of August, where he finished second by 3/4 length that day. He sat back early after not the best beginnings. He was stupidly wide, but he gained a lot of ground that day. 94 Buyer, which he's been running mid to high 90s. Can definitely win here. I think a wide poster shouldn't be bad for him. I think he can run a good race here today. I think he'll be gaining a lot of ground lead. You know, prior to that in the Highlander on very soft ground at Woodbine, 6 furlongs on the EP Taylor. He finished second by 1/2 length that day, or 1.5 lengths that day, where he was just wide, but again, he gained a lot of ground on the demanding ground. And then in the turf sprint of Pimlico over the 5, another race where this horse had very demanding ground. He finished second by 1.5 lengths that day. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly. He was wide. He had the lead. He got overtaken late. You know, they were going very slow for the 5, 1 minute and 1 flat. That was just a very boggy course. But his race in the King Leatherberry off the bench wasn't bad at all. Over the 5.5 at Laurel, winning by a neck. You know, he was a little bit drifting that day, but off the bench you kind of expected. He ran terrifically. If you look at some of his races last fall, in these turf sprints, he wasn't running bad. He won the Ben's Cat last year, won the Maryland Millions turf sprint, and then he took the horse to the Aqueduct Turf Championship, where he had a decent 5th place finish, where he had a horrible trip, but he got around the race course okay. You know, coming here at 20-1, he's going to have to come wide poster, but I think that could be to his benefit. I think he could win. I would use him on the ticket. I think the 4 horse Cogburn, you know, since coming to turf, another horse that's really improved a lot. He won the Jaipur and course world record time, 5.5 and sub 1 minute and 59.4. That was impressive. He won the Twin Spires turf sprint. His only subpar race was on this turf course last year, where he just did not handle it. You either like this course or you don't. We'll figure out if he likes it today or he doesn't like it. I'll use him on the ticket. And the 3 horse one timer is interesting here for Jareth Loveberry and Larry Ravelli, excuse me. You know, this horse ran here last year and he had a very good place behind Gear Jockey in the turf sprint. Came back to run at Hawthorne off the bench in July, where he had a very good place, and then a very good place here in the opening day at the end of August last week. Coming here back to sprinting, you know, decent races, decent buyers. I'm going to give this horse a shot on the ticket to end it off here in the pick 4. But to recount my selection for the 11th from Kentucky Downs, it's the Ainsworth Turf Sprint. I'm going to take the 11 horse here, who is Witty. Give kudos to the 4 horse Cogburn and the 3 horse one timer. 11-4-3-8 Super, 11-4-3 in the multi race. That being said, good luck to all. Please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5. Good luck, everybody.